So Christie Sides is out here putting Christie Wallace on the floor for the reasoning of, like, it's pretty sound reasoning of, like, well, we need to try stuff out for the playoffs. Effectively, if we lose Lexi Hall, we are screwed. Like, it makes sense. Like, I'm not going to be one to say, oh yeah, it's just really dumb playing Christie Wallace. By the way, running an offense through Christie Wallace, that's the problem. That is the big problem. And it's not Christie Wallace being on the floor. I don't care if Christie Wallace is on the floor for 5 minutes a game. Just never with Katie Lou Samuelson and Alyssa Smith on at the same time. You have three players on the floor who are... Alyssa Smith has got all the talent in the world, but she's just clueless in the half-court offense. Like, she's actually clueless. Katie Lou Samuelson, I genuinely don't know what she does. Like, she doesn't shoot, she doesn't rebound, she doesn't pass, she doesn't defend. She's just 6'3" and kind of jogs up and down sometimes. Sometimes she runs hard. I don't know. She's friends with Caitlin Clark. That's about the extent of what she does on the floor. And Christie Wallace at least works, but again, she is just clueless on offense. But if you guys agree that this is kind of a little bit, like, it makes a little bit of sense. Heck, even if you guys don't agree, subscribe. We are trying to get to 700 or 35,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Right now, we are about, well, just over 750 off. We've gained like 50 today. That's still a really good amount. And if you guys are interested in the merch, the Mixed Talk Soup merch will be in the description below. So yeah, Christie Wallace got in the game, and Christie Wallace is not very good at basketball. Let's make that one very clear. I'll talk about it in a video. I don't know if it's before or after this. Basically about every minute that she has gotten this season, if they should have just given it to Celeste Taylor. Like, all of her minutes should have gone to Celeste and Lexi Hall from the very start, and they screwed that one up big time. Screw you, Lynn Dunn. But one thing that just makes no sense is why is Grace Berger not on the floor? Like, I understand that she's not the quickest player in the world, but, like, she is no worse on defense than Katie Lou Samuelson. She is also has the ability to handle the ball. She can shoot from mid. She can create her own shot a bit. Like, she only averaged 5 points a game last year, but she averaged it on above average true shooting for the league. And a lot of her job was to create in the mid-range. Like, it wasn't like she was just standing in the corner getting wide open pass from Caitlin Clark and breaking 80% of her shots. I'm pretty sure she nearly led the league in 3-point percentage of, like, consistent shooters. I'm pretty sure she might have led the league in 3-point percentage last year. And she's just been iced out. Like, I don't get it. And, like, Erica Wheeler's playing better, that's fine. But, like, you're playing Erica Wheeler at the small forward position. Like, Grace Berger's, at least she's 6 foot tall. She's the same height as Caitlin Clark. You can put her on that wing. You can tell her go shoot. And the best part is that unlike a Katie Lou Samuelson, she can at least handle the ball. You can give the ball to Grace Berger, and you can run Caitlin Clark off some screens, and you can trust Grace Berger that she'll be able to pass the ball 7 feet without throwing it so slowly that the other team just intercept the ball. When the one time we saw Katie Lou Samuelson inbound the ball, she tried to throw it from the wing to the top of the 3-point line, but, like, floated the ball and it got stolen for a layup. Like, there's no reason for, if you are experimenting with players, there is no reason for choosing Christie Wallace, who has proven that she can barely play basketball, over Grace Berger. There's just no reason. Again, the Celeste Taylor stuff is a different story entirely. But, like, you cannot tell me she is worse. In the few minutes, like, she played basically, she started getting, I don't know how she lost a spot in the rotation as well. She was playing like 6 to 10 minutes a game. She looked good against, there was a game, was it Seattle? Was it Seattle where they made a comeback with her on the floor? Like, she looked good in some games. She really did earlier on in the year. And you know what? She didn't mess up. I think there was a game, might have been like the Liberty game when they killed us, or when a Sun game, but there was a game she went 2 of 6 in the free throw line. But, like, if going 2 of 6 from the free throw line can get you out of the rotation, then I don't understand why Alyssa Smith is playing. Obviously, Alyssa Smith is a much better player than Grace Berger. I don't know. We don't know. Like, there is absolutely no reason for her not to be in the rotation. And especially if you are experimenting. Because I don't understand why it's like, oh, we're experimenting with lineups. So what are we going to do? We're going to go back to Christie Wallace. We're going to go back to trying to integrate Christie Wallace back into the rotation. like, I don't actually understand what is going on. I do not understand what is going on. Because Grace Berger is she's not 100 times better than Christie Wallace. She can't be worse than Christie Wallace. If you just watch her play in college, she can't be worse than Christie Wallace. She was the 7th pick for a reason. And not in a great draft, but not a terrible draft. Like, you're acting like Maddie Segrist, Jordan Horston. Like, these players can't play. I know Aaliyah Boston was in the draft. Millie? But yeah, you're acting like they weren't in the draft, and like, she was just taken, like, this was a 2021 WNBA draft, where it's like her being taken is basically she was only taken that high because it was a terrible draft. The reality is, no, she was great coming out of Indiana. She's a fan favorite in Indiana. She is a fan favorite in Indiana purely because she was a great in college for Indiana. And she's been iced out. She's been completely iced out. And whatever about we're trying to shorten our rotation for the playoffs, I would understand if she went out of the rotation for the playoffs if she was in it. But, like, I also don't understand Christie Sides, we're going to integrate Christie Wallace back into the rotation as a preparation for the playoffs. I never knew. Like, I don't understand that. I do not understand reintegrating Christie Wallace back into the rotation as your playoff tactic, because it makes absolutely no sense. Because if you're going to experiment at the start of the year, don't experiment in the playoffs. And if you're going to experiment with one player, do not experiment by putting a player that was deemed not good enough to play any minutes but garbage time in an Olympic team where their best player, well, in fact, actually, no, Australia were good, where at times their best player was Sammy Wickham. Like, Ezzy McMcGore, Sammy Wickham, Alana Smith, Jade Melbourne, they were pretty good. But, like, again, Jade Melbourne is not better than Grace Berger. She's just on Washington, who are the youngest team in the league, who are allowing her and Sika Kone play basketball, which most of their teams wouldn't. Like, if Grace Berger was on Washington, we'd be saying, geez, she'd be looked at like Grace Berger, or looked at like Jade Melbourne. This is a 6 foot tall young point guard who can shoot a little bit, who can drive a bit. Is she the greatest defender in the world? From what I remember, I don't think she is, but she can't be any worse. She's no worse than Katie Lou. She's a much better offensive player than Christie Wallace, and she's a much better defender than Katie Lou Samuelson. To be honest, I'm convinced that you could find a player. You could find players playing in Ireland. Like, there's a absolute fantastic player named Claire Amelia. I'm convinced that this version of Claire Amelia is better than this version of 2024 Claire Amelia is better than 2024 Katie Lou Samuelson. But yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked if you're experimenting. And if you're experimenting, you have to put Grace Berger in the lineup, surely.